This is Grandmasters. Nightfalls are dying. Let's fix it. Okay. So this is going to be just me reacting to this content. Okay. If you guys don't know, above is the guy who made this video. So let's listen in on what they had to say. It is 9 minutes long.
Season of Grandmaster Nightfalls approaches, most are busy scrambling to grind out those final power levels to get GM ready, except for our valiant moon defenders, of course. This seems like the perfect time to cover a topic that's needed to be addressed for a while now, and that is, are Grandmaster Nightfalls dying? This playlist has been around for over 2 years now, and there are elements that are pretty outdated when compared to other activities.
Yeah, I think they need to bring in more maps, and I think they need to bring old maps back because we don't have that much maps anymore for Grandmasters.
Today, we'll be discussing the current state of Grandmasters and 5 ways that I think they can be improved for everyone. I'm Above, and if you enjoyed today's video, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into it. Before we dive in and upset the "go play a different game, bro" crowd, I want to make it clear that I love Destiny 2. Any feedback I provide comes from a place of wanting this game to succeed long term. I love Grandmasters. In fact, I have over 1,200 clears to date and have helped hundreds of Guardians acquire their Conqueror titles since the playlist's inception.
He only has 1,200 clears?
Flex, but rather to provide
wow, that's actually not a lot, dude. I thought Above had more.
Maybe too much. But despite my love for this playlist,
oh yeah, dude, I push more
issues that need to be addressed to ensure it remains healthy long term, because I fear that if they don't, this playlist will lose interest rather quickly. So without further ado,
well, I mean, it's not gonna lose interest. I think in total, right? He's got to bring in that WoW just released the Lich King, right? You got to think that Overwatch 2 just came out, right? What else was it? Warzone 2, right? Just came out. MW2 just came out, released. You know what I mean? All these games have been releasing just recently. So hopefully he hits something about that as well. That like, hey, this is the reason why a lot of Grandmasters are, and also the game is just dying in general, due to the fact that, well, a lot of new games are coming out. Destiny doesn't have that much content that lasts a long period of time.
Let's start with the core issues and how we can fix them. First up, we have repetitive Nightfall rotation. To me, this is easily one of the biggest issues plaguing the Grandmaster Nightfall playlist at the moment. Since the launch of the DCV during Beyond Light, we've had 9 strikes removed from the game. This includes the fan favorites Pyramidion and Will of the Thousand strikes, both of which were removed before they even got to be Grandmasters. Meanwhile, the other 7 strikes were only in rotation for 1 to 2 seasons max before
I didn't even get to play these guys. I only played like Hollow Lair.
Song, Tree of Probabilities, Garden World, Strange Terrain, Festering,
I played this on Master,
Broodhold, and the Hollowed Lair.
Hollow Lair is the only one I played on Grandmasters.
Come back. Meanwhile, we have Glassway and Fallen Saber that have been in the GM rotation 4 of the past 7 seasons. And since losing those 9 strikes, we've gained just 7 in return over the last 2 years, 3 of which are reprise strikes from Destiny 1. But don't get me wrong, any sort of new strike content is a welcome addition, but for a live service game that Bungie claims to be an MMO, to have a net loss of 2 strikes across 2 major expansions is pretty shocking for one of Destiny's core playlists, especially when you consider the fact
they are hurting in content. Destiny's hurting in content, man.
Of seasonal content for a lot of players. Though it's not realistic to expect new strikes every single season, a couple of new strikes per year, supplemented with returning sunset strikes, seems like a pretty good compromise. And
they should bring sunset strikes
variety to the overall strike playlist. I think this would keep Grandmasters much more refreshed and enjoyable for everyone. Next up, we have the fear.
Okay, so you do have the, you know, since they vaulted a lot of the strikes and Nightfalls, right, for Grandmasters, all of those that have been sunsetted and vaulted should come back, because the rotation, you always have a Grandmaster from last season's Grandmasters in the new rotation, always. So it's not that good to have it rotating like that. You know, you want like, oh, I haven't played Glassway in like 3 seasons. You know what I mean? That's how many, or 2 seasons. You know, that's 6 months. So you're like, dude, but there's so much content that they can't, you know, give you. So it begs you wanting for that back. Like Hollow Lair, man. I would love these back, but it's just, they're vaulted.
Of missing out, also known as Fomo. Due to the nature of Destiny 2's loot system, Bungie started cycling weapons out of the rotation to bring us new rewards without oversaturating the loot pool. I actually made a video about this a while back, talking about just how difficult it used to be to get the God-rolled weapon that you were looking for.
So
easy. At the time, this was a pretty welcome change. The issue with this system now, however, is the fact that there are very powerful weapons that are now unobtainable to the constant influx of new players, including the likes of Palindrome, Azumi, Hungjury, and the Hothead. And it sucks when people come into my stream
Those are all
asking
vaulted.
about which weapon I'm using, only for me to break it to them that you can't get it anymore. With all of the recent vendor updates to playlists like Iron Banner and Gambit, a similar weapon focusing system would make a lot of...
There is alternative weapons that are still good or even better than Hothead. Right? You have Nightwatch. You know what I mean? There's always, for every weapon out there, there's always a twin weapon that's not vaulted.
Sense for Grandmasters. Imagine with each Platinum GM completion, we received an extra currency known as Operative Energy. Over time, you save up enough of this currency and use it to purchase an Adept weapon pattern from Zavala in the tower,
That'd be smart.
including any of the previously retired GM weapons that we mentioned earlier. Let's say the weekly weapon is Mindbender's Ambition. You clear a GM, get your Mindbenders, the usual materials and exotic armor drops, and some Operative Energy that can be focused into another Mindbenders. Or maybe you go for the elusive God-rolled Palindrome
That's a great idea.
that you missed out on in previous seasons.
Awesome.
Bungie's one weapon per week system is still a good way for players to focus farm for a specific weapon, but by adding an additional currency to chase on top of the weekly weapon,
it'd be like raids.
Players invested chasing God rolls week in and week out, especially when you consider how diverse the Adept weapon loot pool is, especially if all of the Sunset GM weapons come back. Bringing these weapons back and eliminating FOMO would be the perfect way to welcome new players to endgame content. At number 3, we have power level requirements, and this one's a little more straightforward. I'm all for power level mattering in endgame content, but when I'm forced to grind bounties for a plus 15 on my artifact, no thanks. The artificial power grind just doesn't do it for me, and I know many other players feel the same way. It's not only monotonous, it also limits the number of people who can participate in Grandmasters when they release, and creates extreme fatigue for players who grind these levels out season after season. Instead, add a contest mode that automatically bumps players up to the required power level, similar to how the Castellum works from Season of the Haunted. This way, if you want to participate, you can, without any of that ridiculous early season grind. At number 4...
so I sort of disagree with this, right? Because then there's no incentive to play the game until Grandmaster's release, right? So I can just get bumped up to the Grandmasters, okay, whatever, okay. But there's no incentive to grind, bounty grind, brownie prep, farm prep, all that type of stuff, you know, weapon prep, all that, pinnacles, powerfuls, all that goes out the window. So let's just stop power leveling in total, is what I'm getting at. So you're just gonna get to a certain light level, and then it boosts you to this. You just, hey, give me on contest mode, right? And that's basically like, I don't have to do any storylines, no nothing. I just disagree with it in total. I think you should get on grind. That's why they make the content in there to do bounties. You know, Iron Banner bounties, trial bounties. You have Eris bounties. You have Zavala bounties, Banshee bounties, Ada bounties. I mean, just Shahaz bounties. I mean, you have all these bounties to do. That's the content, right? If you're just getting on and doing pinnacles, right, then you're eliminating all of that that storyline, all of that build up that they had, and now we're just, hey, this is Grandmasters, great, awesome, I want to get in there regardless of anything. There we are, contest mode, boom. You know, I'm just gonna do my power grind, and I was just a little bit like.
We have stale modifiers. Over the last several years, the GM playlist has seen some pretty gnarly modifiers added to it, from elemental singes to match game, increased environmental damage, and even baby screams that would clip through the floor and kill you unexpectedly. Funny enough, this was probably my favorite modifier to date because it was unique.
Baby screams are awesome, man.
Modifiers that have been stale for several years at this point, Divinity and Arbalist have become the universal solution to almost all of them, with the only variety being the element on your linear fusion rifle depending on the weekly singe. I think we have so many negative modifiers at the moment that the playlist has lost a little bit of that fun factor it used to have. I would love to see modifiers like Specialist and Grenadier brought back to spice up the meta a little bit more each week. Imagine Grenadier on a strike like Fallen Saber this season, where it's arc singe and you get to melt the boss with storm grenades. It would not only be a ton of fun, it would also be pretty damn effective, and it's memories like this that keep me playing Destiny after all this time. The fifth and final point we'll be covering today is loot incentive. This one is interesting.
I disagree with that a little bit. I disagree with that. I disagree with that a little bit because it's a Grandmaster, right? It is the hardest difficulty in the game. It's harder than Master raids. Like Master King's Fall is 1600 required power level, okay? Grandmasters is 1620, okay? And it just automatically puts you 25 light underneath. So technically you have to be 1595 to get in Grandmasters, okay? But it's still, regardless if it's me 1600, whatever it is, it's still going to push me back down to 1595, which is awesome. You know, that's why it's called Grandmasters, not Masters, Grandmasters.
Loot incentive is actually pretty good. You get a guaranteed adept weapon, frequent exotic armor drops, materials, and even a Nightfall memento, though I'm not really sure we want to talk about that one. With that said, there are some pretty significant flaws with the loot system as it stands right now. The first and arguably most pressing issue is the fact that adept weapons just don't really have a place in the game anymore. Craftable weapons with enhanced perks tend to outshine adept weapons in almost every scenario. I mean, let's be real. When's the last time you felt a significant power bump using an adept weapon over its standard version?
All the time.
Icarus saw a massive drop in utility after the inner accuracy changes. Mods like adept handling, range, stability, and counterbalance are virtually useless in PvE, and adept backup mag is bugged to the point where it's actually detrimental to use it over standard backup mag in literally every way.
I like using adept weapons.
I made a video on this topic a few seasons ago, and I'll link that down in the description below if you want to check that out. My point being, now that weapon crafting exists, adept weapons are kind of outdated. They need a serious rework to compete with enhanced perks because as they stand right now,
it has its plus and
minuses. Worth your time investment. On top of this, I would love to see more cosmetic rewards added to the GM playlist, and other playlists in general for that matter. Similar to how Trials operates, give us a unique GM armor set, exclusive armor glows for gilding or title, rare adept weapon skins, and literally any cosmetic reward to chase. Now that we have Guardians who are gilding titles for a 6th time.
Okay, so I want to make this it's all good, right? But there's too much. Like I want to throw a shit ton of nades and have this ridiculous, really nice gear. You know, I want Grandmasters to be really, really easy and get this really customized gear, but then just have Grandmasters really easy. But then Trials, you know what I mean, is something really, really hard to do to get 7 wins in a row. And then you get some portion of this gear. I can do 10 Grandmasters in a day, in a short period of time. They're only 20 to 30 minutes long, and that's no comms LFGs, and that's the hardest ones. Sometimes they're literally 10 minutes to 15 minutes long for some of the easiest ones. So yes and no. I would love gear, but we have to make Grandmasters harder. not easier. Okay? People can speed run. Grandmasters, majority of people, no comms, can do Grandmasters, the hardest Grandmasters in 20 to 25 minutes with no comms whatsoever. Okay? I just did a couple of Grandmasters. Lightblade took 25 to 30 minutes. And 2 Glasswave runs, and those took 20 to 25 minutes to 30 minutes. You know, no comms whatsoever. Hardly any typing in it. So I think there should be, Grandmasters should be a little bit harder. If you're gonna put in a lot of cool shit, it should be a lot harder to help out with the cool shit.
What if we started to evolve the appearance of our gilded title on the character screen? Sort of like a decorated soldier in battle. The more times you gild it, the more decorated it becomes, with major landmarks at the 5th and 10th guild. Change the color to stand out more. Add more flair to it. Let us show off that we've been longtime warlords of the GM playlist. Something to stand out in the tower like many of us used to do in Destiny 1. Anyways, guys, these are just a few ways I think the GM playlist could be improved. What do you guys think about the GM playlist at the moment? Are you happy with the state of it, or do you have improvements that you'd like to see? Let me know down in the comments below. Anyways, guys, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
I liked it, man. It was a good video. It was definitely really, really nice. Obviously I do have those hot takes and everything. It's just, there's definitely some hot takes. It's a plus and minus, right? Your Destiny, Bungie wants, you want Bungie to give better guns, bring back, past Grandmasters, bring back, sunset weapons, all this stuff, make it a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Oh, you don't have to get to light level. It's just gonna be in contest mode, right? Then it just becomes a regular strike. It's not hard anymore. I want Grandmasters, in my hot take, to be harder. It's gotta be harder, man. If you're gonna have all of this give, then what are they gonna, you know what I mean? What do we have to offer them? Right? Hey man, make this custom build. Make this. Then what's gonna happen is that somebody is gonna make a couple of videos about all the big content creators on how they gave us all this good stuff, right? But then it's really boring to play because we're gods and we're just going in there, throwing 1,000 nades and killing the boss and melting it. After a while, especially if you're somebody who does it for a living and you're running the Grandmaster over and over and over again, and you're taking people that usually Grandmaster took 15 to 20 minutes or 35 minutes or, you know, whatever, however long, and you chop that down to, I don't know, 5-minute Grandmasters. Like, imagine doing Lightblade, right, in 10 minutes, knowing that right now in its state you can do it in 20 to 30 minutes, right, with no comms, know what to do, LFGs. It's gonna be so boring that you're gonna be doing it so fast. 5 to 10 minute runs. It's like everybody's gonna be like, must know how to speed run. I mean, they're already giving us broken builds.